What kind of son slides a folder across the table before his own parents can touch a cent of his six-figure salary? They thought they were coming to claim their half of my paycheck, like I was still a scared kid with no options. By the time they reached the last page, they finally understood what I had documented, what I had changed, and how fast their power over me was about to disappear. Before we continue, we ask you to hit the hype button, subscribe, and like the video to help the channel grow. Tell us which city you are from in the comments. We would like to get to know our audience better. The email came through on a Tuesday morning, right as I was fixing a navigation menu that had been driving our client team insane for 3 days. Subject line, compensation review, action required. My stomach dropped. In my line of work, action required usually means you messed something up. Not that good news is waiting. I clicked it anyway. Dear Linden, we are pleased to inform you that effective immediately, your annual compensation has been adjusted to reflect your contributions to the UX team. Your new base salary is $102,000. I read it 3 times, then I read it again. 6 figures. I had crossed into 6 figures. My hands were shaking when I closed the laptop. Around me, the open plan office hummed with the usual sounds. Keyboards clicking, someone laughing near the water cooler, the espresso machine hissing in the break room. Nobody noticed that my entire world had just shifted. I had been a junior designer making $38,000 a year 5 years ago. I had eaten ramen for dinner more nights than I could count. I had worked weekends and late nights, teaching myself new tools, rebuilding my portfolio 3 times, taking every criticism from Graham and turning it into something better. And now, finally, it had paid off. The first person I wanted to tell was my mother. That instinct was still there, wired deep, even though I knew better. Instead, I grabbed my jacket and headed to the cafe 2 blocks over. Tessa was already there, laptop open, her dark hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She looked up when I walked in and immediately narrowed her eyes. "You look weird. What happened?" "I got the raise." Her face split into a grin. "Holy, how much?" "Base is 102 now." "Linden." She actually stood up and hugged me, which was not a Tessa thing to do. "That's incredible. You deserve it. You have been carrying half the design workload for months." Graham showed up 10 minutes later, ordered his usual black coffee, and sat down with the calm, steady energy he always had. When I told him, he just nodded. "Good. You have been underpaid for a while. What are you going to do with it?" It was such a simple question. What was I going to do with it? "I do not know yet," I said. "Save some. Maybe finally get a decent desk chair. My back has been screaming at me." "Retirement account," Graham said. "You are almost 30. Start putting money away now, and you will actually be able to stop working someday." Tessa rolled her eyes. "He just got the raise, Graham. Let him enjoy it for 5 minutes. I am just saying. Independence starts with planning." That word, independence, stuck with me. It felt strange, foreign, like a concept I had read about but never actually touched. We talked for another half hour. They asked about the project pipeline, about whether I was going to push for a senior title next, about normal work things. Nobody asked me if I was going to send half of it home. Nobody assumed my paycheck belonged to anyone but me. It felt so normal, so easy. I should have stayed in that feeling longer. That evening, I drove out to my parents' house. It was a 20-minute trip across town, through neighborhoods that got a little older and a little more worn-looking with every mile. The house itself was a small 2-story with faded blue siding and a front porch that sagged slightly on one side. I had grown up here. I knew every creak in the floorboards, every stain on the carpet. My mother opened the door before I could knock. "Linden, I did not know you were coming. You should have called. I wanted to tell you something in person." Her face lit up. Come in. Your father is in the kitchen." Victor was leaning against the counter with a beer in his hand, watching something on his phone. He glanced up when I walked in. "Hey, what brings you by?" "I got some good news today." I tried to keep my voice steady, tried to sound proud without sounding like I was bragging. "I got promoted. My salary went up significantly." Helena clasped her hands together. "Oh, that's wonderful. How much of an upgrade are we talking about?" "We, not you, we." "It is just over 6 figures now." The room went quiet for a second. Then my father let out a low whistle. 6 figures. For drawing little app buttons on a computer. "It is a bit more complicated than that, Dad." Sure. He waved his hand. "But still, that's real money now. What are you making? 100,000? 110? 102,000 base, plus bonuses." Helena's smile grew wider. "That's amazing, sweetheart. You have worked so hard. We are so proud of you." I felt a flicker of warmth. Maybe this time would be different. Maybe they would just be happy for me. Then she pulled out a chair at the kitchen table and sat down, folding her hands in front of her like we were about to have a business meeting. "Sit down, honey. We should talk about how this changes things." My stomach tightened. "What do you mean?" "Well, you are making real money now. You have been doing well for a while, but this is different. This is the kind of income that can support more than one person." She glanced at Victor, who nodded slowly. "We have been thinking about this for a while. You know, we have always struggled. Your father has been between jobs more than we would like, and my hours got cut last year. We have been getting by, but just barely." "I know things have been tight," I said carefully. "Right, and you have helped us before, which we appreciate. But now that you are making this much, it makes sense to formalize things. We think half of every paycheck is fair." I blinked. "Half?" "Half," Victor said. "We raised you. We fed you, clothed you, paid for everything when you were growing up. You would not have this job without us. So yeah, half seems right." My mouth went dry. "You want half my salary, every month, for the rest of my life?" "Do not make it sound so dramatic," Helena said. "We are family. Family takes care of each other, and honestly, Linden, you owe us. We gave you everything. I have been sending you money for years. Small amounts here and there. That was nice, but this is different. This is real security, for all of us." Victor leaned forward. "Look, kid, you are sitting in an air-conditioned office doing easy work. We broke our backs so you could go to school and get a soft job like that. The least you can do is share the reward." Naomi appeared in the doorway then, her arms crossed. She did not say anything. She just watched. I looked down at the table, at the scratched wood surface where I had done homework as a kid, where I had eaten 1,000 dinners. My hands were cold. "I need to think about it," I said quietly. "What is there to think about?" Helena's voice sharpened. "You are making more money than you could ever spend on yourself. We are your parents. This is not a negotiation, Linden." I stood up. My legs felt unsteady. "I have to go." "Linden, I will call you." I left before they could say anything else. My hands were shaking so hard I almost could not get my keys into the ignition. As I backed out of the driveway, I glanced at the house one more time. Through the kitchen window, I could see my mother standing with her arms crossed, my father still leaning against the counter. On the fridge, just visible through the glass, was a piece of paper held up with a magnet. I could not read it from the car, but I knew what it was. An old agreement I had signed years ago, back when I was 22 and desperate, and they had convinced me that borrowing money from them meant I owed them forever. My phone buzzed in the cup holder. Another email notification. The salary adjustment confirmation from HR. I sat there in the driveway, engine running, staring at that lit-up kitchen window. And for the first time in my life, I understood that this was never going to stop, not unless I made it stop. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard my mother's voice. "You owe us." By morning, I felt hollowed out. I made coffee, opened my laptop, tried to focus on work emails. But my mind kept drifting back to that kitchen table, to the way they had looked at me like I was a resource instead of a person. The memories came in pieces, small moments I had buried. I remembered being 12 years old, sitting on the swings at the neighborhood park near our house. It was late afternoon, the sky turning orange, and my mother had come to pick me up from the after-school program. She sat down on the swing next to mine, not swinging, just sitting. "Linden, we need to talk about soccer." I had been playing recreational soccer for 2 years. It was the one thing I looked forward to every week. "What about it?" "We cannot afford it anymore. The registration fees went up, and with your father's hours getting cut, we just do not have the extra money." My chest tightened. "But the season just started." "I know, honey, I am sorry. But we have to make sacrifices. As a family, do you understand?" I nodded, even though I did not understand, even though I had seen my father buy a new fishing rod the week before, even though my mother had just gotten her nails done. "You are such a good boy," she said, reaching over to squeeze my hand. "You understand what family means. Not every kid does." I quit soccer. I told my friends I was too busy with school. I never brought it up again. That was the first time. But it was not the last. The phone rang, snapping me back to the present. My mother's name lit up the screen. I let it ring 3 times before answering. "Hello?" "Linden, honey, I am glad I caught you. I wanted to follow up on our conversation last night." "I am working, Mom." "This will only take a minute. Your father and I were talking, and we realized we did not explain it well. We are not trying to take advantage of you. We just want what is fair. Do you remember how much we spent on you growing up? The clothes, the food, the school supplies? Do you have any idea how much that adds up to?" I closed my eyes. "Mom?" "We never asked for anything back then. We just gave and gave and gave. And now you are in a position to give back, and you are acting like we are being unreasonable." "I never said that." "You did not have to. I could see it on your face. You looked at us like we were strangers asking for a handout. That is not—" "We are your parents, Linden. We gave you life. We gave you everything. And all we are asking for is a little security in return." Her voice cracked on the last word. The guilt hit me like a wave. I wanted to tell her that I understood, that I would figure something out, that I was sorry for even hesitating. But something stopped me. A small, quiet voice in the back of my mind that said, "This is not normal. This is not what parents are supposed to ask for." "I need more time to think," I said. "Time? Linden, we are barely scraping by. We do not have time." "I will call you later." I hung up before she could say anything else. My hands were shaking again. I hated that. I hated how they could still make me feel like this, small and guilty and wrong. I pulled up my banking app. I had not looked at my full transaction history in a long time. I usually just checked my balance and moved on. But now I started scrolling, slowly, month by month. There. A transfer from 3 years ago. $500. Memo. Emergency, mom's car. 2 months later, $800. Memo. Dad's medical bill. A month after that, $300. Memo. Just to help out. I kept scrolling. The transfers were everywhere, sometimes small, sometimes large, sometimes with detailed explanations, sometimes with nothing at all. I added them up in my head as I went. By the time I reached the bottom of the list, my stomach was churning. Over the past 5 years, I had sent them more than $30,000. $30,000 on a junior designer's salary. Money I could have saved. Money I could have used for a better apartment, for therapy, for building an actual future. I opened my messages next, searched for my mother's name, scrolled back through years of texts. "Honey, I hate to ask, but we are really struggling this month. Could you help with rent? Your father needs new work boots, and we are short on cash. Can you cover it? Emergency. The water heater went out. Can you send $300? And then, later, you are such a blessing. We do not know what we would do without you." Every single request was framed as a crisis. Every single one was urgent, and every single one came with a reminder of how much they had sacrificed for me. But I also remembered seeing a brand new flat-screen TV in their living room 2 weeks after I had sent money for an emergency. I remembered my father talking about a fishing trip he took with his buddies, laughing about how much beer they drank, just days after I had covered his medical bill. I felt sick. That evening, my father called. I almost did not answer, but I did. "Hey, kid, your mom said you needed more time to think. That's fine. Take your time. But while you are thinking, just remember something." "What?" "We have been keeping track of everything we have done for you. Every meal, every ride to school, every birthday present. You want to start talking about debts? We can start adding up what you owe us for the past 29 years. His voice was calm, almost friendly. But there was an edge underneath. "And another thing," he continued. "You have a good job now, a respectable job. It would be a shame if people at your company started hearing stories about how you treat your parents, how you abandoned the people who raised you the second you started making real money. That's the kind of thing that sticks to a person, you know." My throat tightened. "Are you threatening me?" "Threatening? No, no. I am just saying. Reputation matters. Family matters. Think about it." He hung up. I sat there in my apartment, staring at the wall. My heart was pounding. My hands were cold. I thought about calling Tessa, or Graham, or anyone. But I did not know what to say. I did not know how to explain what was happening without sounding crazy. Instead, I walked over to the shelf where I kept old files. There was a folder from years ago, labeled with the year I graduated college. I pulled it out and opened it. Inside were papers I had saved but never really looked at. Tax documents, a lease agreement from my first apartment, and near the bottom, a printed bank statement from when I was 22. There was a transfer on it, $2,000 sent to my parents. In the memo line, I had typed, "Loan to be repaid." I remembered writing that. I remembered my mother laughing when she saw it. "Loan? Honey, family does not need receipts. We will pay you back when we can." They never did. I stared at that statement for a long time. Then I put it back in the folder, slid the folder back onto the shelf, and pulled it halfway out again. I did not know what I was going to do with it yet, but I knew I needed to keep it close. The grocery store was crowded on Saturday afternoon. I usually tried to avoid weekend shopping, but I had run out of coffee and bread, and I could not face another day without caffeine. I was standing in the cereal aisle, staring at prices and trying to decide if the name brand stuff was worth the extra $2, when I heard a familiar voice behind me. "Linden, I did not know you shopped here." I turned. My mother was pushing a cart toward me, my father trailing a few steps behind. They were both smiling. "Hey," I said. "Yeah, it is close to my apartment." "Well, what a coincidence." Helena moved closer, her voice bright and loud. Too loud for a grocery store. "We were just talking about you, about your big raise. 6 figures? Can you believe it? Our son, making 6 figures. A woman pushing a cart past us glanced over. I felt my face flush. "Mom, can we not?" "Oh, do not be modest. You should be proud. We certainly are." She turned to the woman, who was now pretending to look at granola bars. "He is a designer, makes over $100,000 a year now. We are so blessed." The woman smiled politely and moved away quickly. Victor stepped up beside Helena. "Yeah, it is a good thing, too. We have been waiting a long time for him to start paying us back." I froze. "Dad, what?" "It is true. We raised you, fed you, kept a roof over your head, and now that you are making real money, it is time for you to step up. That is just how it works." People were definitely staring now. An older man near the end of the aisle was watching us with open curiosity. "Can we talk about this later?" I said quietly. "Why? You ashamed of your parents or something?" Victor's smile did not reach his eyes. "We are just having a conversation about family obligations, about how children are supposed to take care of their parents when they get older. That is normal, right?" Helena put her hand on my arm. Her grip was tight. "We are not trying to embarrass you, sweetheart. We are just being honest. You are behind on your payments to us. We already told people you were sending half your paycheck home, and it has been weeks now. We do not want to look like liars." "I never agreed to that." "Well, you need to agree, because we are counting on it." She leaned closer, lowering her voice just slightly. "And you do not want us to have to explain to people why you are being so selfish, do you?" My chest felt tight. I wanted to say something, anything, but my throat had closed up. "We will talk more later," Victor said, clapping me on the shoulder. "Think about what we said. And remember, we have been keeping records too. You do not want this to get messy." They walked away, their cart squeaking slightly. I stood there in the cereal aisle, staring at the boxes in front of me, trying to remember how to breathe. By the time I got to my car, my hands were shaking so badly I could barely get the key into the door. I sat in the driver's seat, groceries in the back, and just stared at the steering wheel. This was not normal. I knew that now, but knowing it and doing something about it were two different things. I thought about that phrase Victor had used. We have been keeping records too. What records? What did they have on me? Probably nothing. Probably just scare tactics. But the uncertainty was enough to twist my stomach into knots. I drove home in silence. When I got to my apartment, I unloaded the groceries on autopilot, putting things away without really seeing them. Then I sat down at my small kitchen table and just stared at the wall. I needed to do something. I could not keep living like this. I pulled out my phone and opened a text thread with Tessa, stared at the blank message box, tried to figure out how to explain this without sounding insane. Finally, I just typed, "Can we meet for coffee tomorrow? I need advice about something." Her response came through 2 minutes later. "Of course. Same place as usual. 10 a.m.? "Yeah, thanks." I set the phone down and looked around my apartment. It was small. 1 bedroom, a tiny kitchen, a living room barely big enough for a couch and a TV stand. But it was mine. I paid for it. I kept it clean. I had built a life here, separate from them, and they wanted to take half of it. No, not half. They wanted control. They wanted me to stay dependent, stay guilty, stay small. I thought about that old bank statement, about the word loan in the memo line, about all the other transfers I had made over the years, all the money I had sent thinking it was temporary help. I got up and walked over to my desk, pulled my laptop open, logged into my banking app again. This time, I did not just scroll. I took screenshots. Every transfer to my parents, every memo line, every date. Then I opened a new folder on my desktop, named it Documentation. I spent the next 2 hours going through everything, bank statements, text messages, emails, anything that showed a pattern. By the time I was done, I had over 50 files saved, proof of thousands of dollars sent, proof of promises to pay me back that never materialized, proof of emergencies that seemed to happen every single month. I sat back in my chair, staring at the folder icon on my screen. This was evidence. This was real. This was something I could use. But use for what? What was I actually going to do? The bank branch was quiet on Monday morning. I had taken a half day off work, telling Graham I had a personal appointment. He did not ask questions. The advisor, a woman in her 40s named Janet, greeted me with a polite smile and led me to a small glass-walled office near the back of the building. "How can I help you today?" "I need printed records," I said. "Full transaction histories for all my accounts, going back 5 years. She raised her eyebrows slightly. "That is a lot of data. May I ask what this is for?" "Personal documentation." She studied me for a moment, then nodded. "All right. It will take a little while to pull everything and print it. I can also check if there are any accounts with your name attached that you might not be actively using." "Yes, please do that." "And if there are any joint accounts or co-signed authorizations, would you like those flagged as well?" I nodded. "Definitely." She typed for a while, her face neutral and professional. Then she paused. "Okay, I see 3 active accounts under your name, a checking, a savings, and an old shared account that was opened 7 years ago. The shared account has 2 authorized users. You and..." She glanced at the screen. "Helena Rellen." My stomach dropped. "My mother." "Yes, it looks like it was set up for emergency access, but there have been regular withdrawals from it over the years. Small amounts, mostly. Did you authorize those?" "No." Janet's expression did not change, but something in her eyes shifted. "I see. Would you like to close that account or remove the secondary authorization?" "Close it." "Understood. I will start the paperwork for that. In the meantime, I will print everything you requested. It should be ready in about 20 minutes. I sat in the waiting area near the front of the bank, watching people come and go. My phone buzzed twice, both texts from my mother. I did not open them. When Janet called me back, she handed me a thick manila envelope. "Everything is in here. Transaction histories, account summaries, copies of any authorization forms we have on file. I have also included a document showing the withdrawal history from the shared account, with dates and amounts." "Thank you. One more thing." She leaned forward slightly, lowering her voice. "If you are concerned about financial interference or unauthorized use of your information, you should consider speaking with a lawyer. We can provide records, but we cannot offer legal advice." I looked down at the envelope in my hands. "I understand." On the bus ride home, I opened the envelope and started flipping through the pages. There it was, in black and white. Withdrawals from the shared account I had forgotten existed. $20 here, $50 there. Over 7 years, it added up. I did the math in my head. Another $2,000 at least. Money I'd not even known was missing. That night, I sat at my desk with the bank records spread out in front of me. My laptop was open to a contact page I had found through the employee benefits portal at work. Legal referral services. I had scrolled past it a dozen times before, never thinking I would actually need it. I picked up my phone and dialed the number listed under Consumer Law and Personal Finance. A man answered on the 3rd ring. His voice was calm and professional. "Price & Associates. This is Nolan Price." "Hi, my name is Linden Rellen. I was referred through my employer's legal services program. I need advice about a family financial situation." "All right. Can you give me a brief overview?" I took a breath. "My parents have been asking me for money for years. I have been sending it, thinking it was temporary help. But now they are demanding half of my salary permanently. They are threatening me if I do not comply, and I just found out they have been taking money from an old shared account without telling me." There was a pause. Then Nolan said, "That is financial abuse, and depending on what they have been saying, it might also be extortion. How old are you?" 29. "And are you financially dependent on them in any way? Do they have control over any of your assets, property, or accounts?" "No, I have my own apartment, my own income. The only shared thing was that old account, and I just closed it today." "Good. That is a strong starting point. Do you have documentation of the transfers and the threats?" "Yes, bank records, text messages, everything." "Excellent. Can you come into my office tomorrow? We should meet in person to go through this properly." I hesitated. "How much does this cost?" "Initial consultation is free through the referral program. After that, we can discuss options. But let me be clear. You are not the one in the wrong here. Your parents have no legal right to your income. you are an adult. If they are pressuring or threatening you, that is harassment. We can address this. I felt something loosen in my chest. Tomorrow works. What time? 3 in the afternoon. I will send you the address. The next day, I sat in Nolan's office and told him everything. He listened without interrupting, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. The office was calm and organized, with shelves full of case files and a window overlooking the street below. When I finished, he set down his pen and looked at me directly. Here is the situation. Legally, you owe your parents nothing. They chose to raise you. That is not a debt you are required to repay. If they are threatening you, whether it is threats to your reputation, your job, or anything else, that is harassment. If they are demanding money and implying consequences if you do not pay, that could be considered extortion. So what do? First, we document everything. You have already started that process, which is good. Second, we cut off all financial ties. No more transfers, no more shared accounts. Third, we establish clear boundaries in writing. A formal letter stating that you will not be providing financial support going forward and that any further threats or harassment will be reported. Will that stop them? It depends on how far they are willing to push. But in my experience, people like this back down when they realize there are real consequences. The key is to be firm, clear, and consistent. He walked me through the next steps. Gathering more evidence, organizing it into a clear timeline, drafting a formal cease and desist letter, setting up alerts on my credit report to make sure they were not trying to open accounts in my name. By the time I left his office 2 hours later, I had a plan. I spent the next week executing it. I printed more bank statements, I saved more text messages, I organized everything into a folder, not physical yet, just digital, with dates and amounts clearly labeled. I also set up new passwords on all my accounts, changed my security questions, made sure my parents had no access to anything. At work, I told HR that my personal contact information should never be given out to anyone, even family, without my explicit permission. They noted it in my file without asking questions, and I kept my phone on silent. My mother called 6 times, my father called twice. Naomi sent one text asking if I was okay. I did not respond to any of them. On Friday, Nolan called me. I have drafted the letter. It is clear, professional, and legally sound. It outlines that you have provided significant financial support in the past, that you are under no legal obligation to continue, and that any further harassment or threats will be treated as a criminal matter. Do you want to send it now, or do you want to wait? I thought about that grocery store, about the way they had talked about me in public, like I was property they owned. Not yet, I said. I want to hand it to them in person. Are you sure? That can be confrontational. I am sure. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, All right, but do it in a public place, somewhere with witnesses, and bring copies of everything, the letter, the bank records, all of it. If they try to twist this later, you will have proof of what you said and when. I understand. One more thing, Linden. When you do this, you need to be ready for them to react badly. They're going to try guilt, anger, maybe even threats. You need to stay calm and stick to the facts. Can you do that? I thought about it. About all the years of guilt and confusion and feeling like I was never good enough. Yes, I said. I can. I spent the weekend alone, reviewing everything one more time. Nolan had sent me the draft letter, and I had read it so many times I practically had it memorized. It was simple, professional. It listed the facts without emotion. The total amount of money I had sent them over the years, now calculated at just over $32,000. The repeated requests for loans that were never repaid, the discovery of unauthorized withdrawals from the shared account. And then, in clear language, the boundary. I would no longer be providing financial support. Any further attempts to pressure, threaten, or harass me would be documented and, if necessary, reported to the authorities. At the bottom was Nolan's name, his title, and the name of his law firm. I printed 20 copies. Then I organized everything into a physical folder, dark blue with tabs separating different sections. Bank statements in one, text message transcripts in another. The letter itself at the front attached to a summary page that laid out the numbers in a simple chart. It felt surreal, holding it in my hands. This was not something I had ever imagined doing, preparing legal documents to protect myself from my own parents. But it also felt right, solid, like I was finally standing on firm ground instead of sinking sand. On Sunday evening, my phone rang, my mother again. This time I answered. Linden, finally, I have been trying to reach you all week. I know, I have been busy. Too busy to call your own mother? We have been worried sick. Naomi said you have been ignoring her too. I am fine. I just needed space. Space? Her voice rose. Space from your family? What is that supposed to mean? I took a breath. Mom, I want to meet you, Dad, and me, to talk about everything. Oh, so now you want to talk, after ignoring us for a week? I am serious. Let us meet somewhere we can sit down and discuss this properly. She was quiet for a moment. Then her tone shifted, became warmer. Well, that is good to hear. Your father and I have been meaning to take you out anyway, to celebrate your new salary. How about Saturday? There is that restaurant you used to like, the one with the big booths. We can get dinner, have a nice family evening. I could hear the calculation in her voice. She thought this was me giving in, coming back to the fold. Saturday works, I said. Perfect. 6 o'clock. We will see you there. She hung up before I could say anything else. I set the phone down and looked at the folder sitting on my desk. 5 days. I had 5 days to prepare. That week at work, I was distracted. Graham noticed during a team meeting on Wednesday. Afterward, he pulled me aside in one of the small conference rooms. You all right? You seem off. I am dealing with some family stuff. He nodded slowly. The kind of family stuff that keeps you up at night? Yeah. He did not push for details. Instead, he said, I do not know what is going on, but I will tell you something I learned the hard way. Family does not get a free pass to treat you badly just because they are family. If someone is hurting you, you are allowed to protect yourself, even if they share your name. I looked at him, surprised. That is specific advice. I have been where you are. Different situation, same principle. I let my brother take advantage of me for years because I thought I owed him something. By the time I set boundaries, I had lost thousands of dollars and a lot of self-respect. He shrugged. Just saying. You do not owe anyone your peace of mind, not even your parents. That night, Tessa and I met at the cafe. I told her a condensed version of what was happening, leaving out some of the harsher details, but giving her the general shape of it. She listened, her expression growing darker with every sentence. When I finished, she just said, That is messed up. I know. No, I mean it is really messed up. That is not what parents do. That is what con artists do. I laughed, but it came out hollow. Yeah, I guess. What are you going to do? I am meeting them on Saturday. I have a lawyer now. I have evidence. I am going to set boundaries and stick to them. Good. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I am proud of you. That takes guts. I do not feel gutsy. I feel terrified. That is what guts are, being scared and doing it anyway. On Friday night, I could not sleep. I kept running through the meeting in my head. What I would say, how they would react, what I would do if they got angry, if they cried, if they tried to guilt me into backing down. I got up around 2 a.m. and made tea, stood in my tiny kitchen looking around at the apartment I had built for myself, the cheap furniture I had bought secondhand, the laptop on the desk where I worked late nights, teaching myself new skills, the shelf of design books I had collected over the years. This was mine, all of it. I had earned it. I had worked for it, and I was not going to let anyone take it from me. I walked over to my desk and picked up the folder, flipped through it one more time. Everything was in order, every number checked, every document clear. I set it down next to my keys and wallet. Tomorrow, I would walk into that restaurant with this folder under my arm, and I would walk out free. Or at least, I hoped I would. Saturday came too fast and too slow at the same time. I spent the morning cleaning my apartment, trying to stay busy. Around 4, I took a long shower and put on clean clothes. Nothing too formal, but nothing sloppy either. I wanted to look calm, composed. At 5:30, I picked up the folder. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from my mother. Hope you are ready. We have plans for your money. I stared at that message for a long time. The winking emoji felt obscene, like this was all a joke to them, like I was a punchline. I put the phone in my pocket, picked up my keys, and walked out the door. The restaurant was 10 minutes away. I could see the sign from the parking lot, a big neon logo for a mid-price chain, the kind of place that served burgers and pasta and had booths big enough for families. I sat in my car for a minute, gripping the steering wheel. Then I picked up the folder, got out, and walked inside. They were already there, sitting in a booth near the back. My mother waved when she saw me, her smile wide and bright. My father raised his hand in a lazy greeting. Naomi was sitting next to them, looking uncomfortable. I walked over, slid into the booth across from them. There he is, Helena said. Our 6-figure boy. We were just telling the waitress about you. Victor grinned. Yeah, we are pretty proud. Not every family has a kid pulling in that kind of money. I set the folder on the table between us. Did not say anything, just set it down. Helena glanced at it. What is that? Before we talk about anything else, I said quietly, I need you to read this. Victor frowned. Read what? Just open it, I said. My voice was steady, calmer than I felt. Please. Helena reached for the folder slowly, like she was not sure if this was some kind of joke. She opened it to the first page. Her face changed immediately. The smile disappeared. Her mouth opened slightly, then closed again. Victor leaned over to look. What is this? It is a summary, I said, of everything I have given you over the past 5 years. Every transfer, every loan, every emergency payment, it is all there, with dates and amounts. Naomi craned her neck to see. Her eyes went wide. Helena flipped to the second page, then the third. Her hands were starting to shake. This says... She stopped, swallowed. This says $32,000. That is correct. But we never asked for that much. You asked for it in pieces. A few hundred here, 1,000 there. It adds up. Victor grabbed the folder and started flipping through the pages. Where did you get all this? From the bank. Those are official records, verified and printed. He reached a page with text message screenshots. Stopped. His face went pale. Helena was shaking her head. Linden, I do not understand. Why are you doing this? Keep reading. She turned to the next section. Bank statements. Withdrawal histories. The shared account she had been taking money from without telling me. I closed that account, I said. Last week, along with anything else that had your name attached to it. Victor looked up. You closed our emergency account. It was my account. You were an authorized user, and you have been using it for 7 years without asking me. We thought you knew. I did not. Naomi was reading over their shoulders now. Her expression was hard to read, somewhere between shock and something else. Realization, maybe. Helena flipped to the letter at the front. Nolan's name was printed at the bottom. She stared at it for a long time. You hired a lawyer? I did. Against your own parents? To protect myself? Yes. She looked up at me, and for the first time I could remember, she looked genuinely scared. Linden, what is this? What are you trying to say? I am saying that I am done. I am not giving you any more money. I have already given you more than most children ever give their parents, and it has never been enough. So I am drawing a line. Right here. Right now. Victor's jaw tightened. You cannot just cut us off. We are your family. I can, and I am. We raised you, and I have spent 5 years paying you back for it. I do not owe you anything more. Helena's eyes filled with tears. How can you say that? After everything we have done for you? After everything you have done to me, you mean? Her face crumpled. That is not fair. No. What is not fair is you treating me like an ATM. What is not fair is you demanding half my paycheck like I am still a kid who cannot make my own decisions. What is not fair is you threatening me in a grocery store in front of strangers because I did not send you money fast enough. Victor stood up halfway, his voice rising. Watch your tone. Sit down, Dad. He blinked, sat down slowly. I leaned forward, keeping my voice calm and measured. That letter explains everything. I have no legal obligation to support you. None. You are both capable of working. You have made choices with your money, and those choices are not my responsibility. I have helped you for years, and I am stopping now. And if we do not accept that? Victor's voice was hard. Then the letter also explains that any further harassment, threats, or attempts to interfere with my job or my life will be treated as a legal matter. I have documentation of everything. Every threat you have made, every demand, every time you have tried to manipulate or intimidate me. Helena was crying now, but it was not the soft, delicate crying she usually did to get sympathy. It was real, messy, mascara running down her cheeks. You are really doing this. You are really cutting us off. I am setting boundaries. If you can respect them, we can still have a relationship. But the money stops. Today. Naomi was staring at the papers spread across the table. I did not know you had given them this much. Neither did I, until I added it up. And they never paid you back? Not once. She looked at our parents. You told me he was being selfish. You said he was keeping everything for himself. Helena did not answer. She was just staring at the folder, her hands still shaking. Victor tried one more time, his voice taking on a wheedling tone. Linden, be reasonable. We are struggling. We need help. Then get help somewhere else. Apply for assistance. Talk to a financial counselor. Figure out how to live within your means. but stop asking me to give up my future so you can avoid responsibility for yours." He stared at me for a long moment. "You have really thought this through?" "I have." "How long have you been planning this?" "Long enough to make sure everything is legal and documented." Helena wiped her face with a napkin from the table dispenser. "So that is it? We are just supposed to accept this?" "Yes." "What if we refuse?" I tapped the folder. "Then read the last page, the one that explains what happens if you continue to harass me or try to interfere with my life." Victor flipped to the back, read silently. His face went from red to pale. "You would really do this? Report your own parents?" "If you force me to, yes." The waitress approached our table, noticed the tension, and quickly retreated without saying anything. Helena looked around at the nearby tables, suddenly aware that people were watching. She lowered her voice to a harsh whisper. "This is humiliating." "Then you should not have demanded money from me in public places." "We never demanded." "Yes, you did, multiple times, and I have proof." Naomi spoke up quietly. "I saw some of those messages, Mom. When you left your phone on the kitchen table last week. You did demand. You said he owed you." Helena shot her a sharp look. "Whose side are you on?" "I am not on anyone's side. I am just saying what I saw." Victor was still staring at the folder, flipping through pages like he could not quite believe what he was seeing. "This must have taken you weeks to put together." "It did." "All to prove some point?" "No, to protect myself. There is a difference." The silence that followed was suffocating. Helena kept flipping through the pages like she was looking for something that would make this all go away, some loophole, some mistake. Victor sat frozen, his face red, veins visible at his temples. Finally, Helena set the folder down carefully, like it might explode. Her voice came out small and hollow. "What do you want us to do?" "Nothing. Just leave me alone. Stop calling, stop demanding, stop treating me like I exist to fund your lives. We are your parents. Then act like it. Parents support their children. They do not bleed them dry." Victor's fist came down on the table, not hard enough to damage anything, but loud enough to make Naomi flinch and the silverware jump. "You ungrateful." "Careful," I said quietly, my voice like ice. "We are in public, and everything you say right now can be added to the documentation." He stopped mid-sentence, looked around. A few people at nearby tables were definitely watching now. An older couple 2 booths over had stopped eating. A young family across the aisle was staring. Victor's jaw worked silently. Then he sat back, crossing his arms over his chest. Helena wiped her eyes again, smearing what was left of her makeup. "So that is it? You are just going to abandon us?" "I am not abandoning you. I am choosing myself for once. After everything, I deserve to live my own life, with my own money, making my own choices, without feeling guilty every single day for wanting basic financial security." She opened her mouth to argue, then closed it again. For once, she had nothing to say. Naomi spoke up, her voice quiet but steady. "Can I ask you something?" I looked at her. "Yeah." "Why did you wait so long to do this?" I thought about it, took a breath. "Because I felt guilty. Because I thought I owed them. Because I did not know it was okay to say no. Because every time I tried to pull back, they would tell me another story about sacrificing for me, and I would feel like the worst son in the world. And now? Now I know better. Now I know that love should not come with invoices." She nodded slowly, looked back at our parents with something in her eyes I had never seen before. Doubt, maybe, or clarity. "I think you should read the rest of that letter." Helena picked it up again with shaking hands. Her lips moved as she read, her face going through a series of expressions: confusion, anger, fear. When she got to the part about legal consequences, her face went white. "This says you will report us. Only if you keep harassing me. If you respect the boundaries, there is no problem. But we are family. Family does not do this to each other. Family also does not treat their children like personal bank accounts." Victor was staring at his hands now, flexing his fingers. "You really went to a lawyer, got all these papers together, planned this whole thing?" "Yes." "Just to humiliate us?" "No, to protect myself. If you feel humiliated, that is because you know what you have been doing is wrong." He looked up at me, and for a moment I saw something different in his eyes. Not anger, not manipulation, just defeat. Pure, simple defeat. "Fine," he said quietly, his voice rough. "You win." Helena grabbed his arm. "Victor." "He wins, Helena. Look at this." He gestured at the folder. "He has lawyers, records, everything organized. We have nothing. We have been living off his guilt for 5 years, and now the guilt is gone. But we have nothing, he repeated louder this time. No leverage, no proof that he owes us anything. Just stories and demands that he has documentation proving were excessive. She looked down at the folder again, then at me. Her eyes were red and puffy. So you are really not going to help us anymore? Not even in an actual emergency? Define emergency. If we are about to lose the house, if one of us gets sick, if... Those are things adults handle with insurance, savings, and community resources, not by guilting their children. So that is a no. That is a no. Her face hardened, tears still on her cheeks, but her expression turning cold. Then do not expect us to be there for you either. I do not. The words came out colder than I intended, but they were true. I had stopped expecting anything from them a long time ago. I stood up slowly, deliberately, pulled out my wallet and counted out enough cash to cover my part of whatever meal we might have ordered. Set it on the table beside the open folder. The folder is yours to keep, I said. Read it as many times as you need to. My number is the same, but I will not be answering unless it is an emergency, a real one, not a manufactured crisis because you spent your rent money on something else. Helena looked up at me, her expression a mixture of hurt and anger and something else I could not quite identify. You have changed? Yeah, I said. I have. I grew up. I learned that love should not cost everything I earn. That is not what love means to you anymore? Love means caring about someone, not being bled dry by them. I looked at Naomi. She met my eyes. There was understanding there. Then I looked at my parents one last time. Victor was staring at the table. Helena was gripping her napkin like a lifeline. Goodbye, I said. I walked out of that restaurant with my head up and my hands steady. Behind me, I could hear my mother crying and my father saying something in a low, angry voice. But I did not turn around. I did not hesitate. I pushed through the door and stepped out into the evening air. It was cooler now. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. I got into my car, sat in the driver's seat, and just breathed. My hands were not shaking, my stomach was not churning, my chest was not tight. For the first time in years, I felt light. It was done. The next few days were strange. I kept expecting my phone to ring, kept waiting for angry messages or guilt trips or some new manipulation. But there was nothing, just silence. It felt unnatural, like the calm before a storm. I would be sitting at my desk, working on a design mock-up, and suddenly my shoulders would tense up, anticipating a call that never came. On Monday, I went back to work. The office felt different somehow, brighter, less heavy, or maybe it was just me. Graham asked how my weekend went. I told him it went well. He studied my face for a moment, nodded, and did not push for details. Tessa was more direct. She cornered me in the break room while I was making coffee. Did you do it? Yeah. And? And they are not happy. But it is done. She hugged me right there in the office, in front of everyone. I could feel other people glancing over, probably wondering what was going on. I am proud of you. Thanks. Seriously, that took guts. It took a lawyer and a lot of documentation. Still counts as guts. That week, I started to notice small changes in myself. I slept better. I did not wake up at 3 a.m. with anxiety twisting my stomach. I did not check my bank account 5 times a day, calculating how much I could afford to send if they asked. I did not feel a knot in my stomach every time my phone buzzed. On Tuesday, I actually laughed at something Graham said during a team meeting. Really laughed, not the polite chuckle I usually gave. He raised his eyebrows in surprise, but did not comment. On Wednesday, I stayed late to work on a personal design project I had been putting off for months, just because I wanted to. Not because I was avoiding going home, not because I was stressed, just because I felt like creating something. The project was a redesign of a local nonprofit's website, something I had volunteered for but never had the energy to finish. Now I found myself absorbed in it, playing with color schemes and layouts, losing track of time in the best way possible. When I finally looked up, it was almost 9. The office was empty except for the cleaning crew. I saved my work, packed up, and drove home feeling satisfied instead of drained. On Thursday morning, I got an email from HR about the annual benefits review. For the first time, I actually read through the retirement plan options instead of just clicking through. I increased my contribution percentage, set up automatic transfers to a high-yield savings account, started building a real financial cushion. That afternoon, Naomi texted me. Can we talk? I stared at the message for a while. Part of me wanted to ignore it. But another part, the part that still remembered her sitting at that booth, reading through the folder with wide eyes, made me respond. Okay, when? Saturday? Coffee? Sure, same place as before? Yeah, thanks. I hesitated, then added, Are you okay? The three dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. I am trying to be. On Friday, I took a long lunch break and walked around the downtown area near my office. Just walked, with no destination. Looked in shop windows, watched people, felt the sun on my face. I bought myself a sandwich from a place I had always wanted to try but thought was too expensive. It cost $12. A few months ago, that would have made me feel guilty. That is money I could have sent home. Now I just enjoyed the sandwich. That evening, I cleaned my apartment. Really cleaned it. Not just the surface tidying I usually did. I scrubbed the bathroom, organized my closet, threw out clothes I had not worn in years, but kept out of some vague sense that I might need them someday. I found an old photo album in the back of my closet. Pictures from college, from my first job. I flipped through it slowly, looking at my younger self. In most of the photos, I looked tired, stressed. Even when I was smiling, there was tension around my eyes. I set the album aside and pulled out my phone, took a selfie, looked at it. The difference was startling. I looked lighter. The tension was gone. I posted it to social media with a simple caption, Feeling good lately. Tessa commented within minutes. You look happy. About time. On Saturday morning, I got to the coffee shop early. Ordered my usual and sat by the window, watching people walk by on the sidewalk outside. Naomi showed up 15 minutes later, looking tired, dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She ordered a large coffee, black, no sugar, and sat across from me. Thanks for meeting me, she said. Of course. I am not here to argue with you, she said immediately. I just want to understand. Okay. Mom and Dad are a mess. Mom has been crying constantly. Dad has been drinking more than usual. They keep saying you betrayed them, that you humiliated them in public, that they raised an ungrateful son. I took a sip of my coffee, waited. But I keep thinking about that folder, she continued, about those numbers, about all the messages I saw, and I do not know what to think anymore. What do you want to know? I want to know if you feel guilty, if any part of you regrets doing it. I thought about it, really thought about it. No, I do not regret it. I wish it had not been necessary. I wish they had been able to hear me without needing lawyers and documentation, but I do not regret protecting myself. She nodded slowly. I read through that folder after you left. I went back to their place and looked at it again. I had no idea they had taken that much from you. They never told you. They told me you sent money sometimes. They made it sound like small amounts, like you were just helping out here and there. $100 for groceries, $200 for utilities. They never mentioned it was thousands. It was never small, and it was never temporary. Every time I sent money, there was another emergency a few weeks later. Naomi looked down at her cup. They did the same thing to me, you know. Not with money, but with guilt. With making me feel like I owed them just for existing, like everything they ever did for me was a loan I had to repay forever. I know. I am still living with them. I do not have the kind of job you have. I do not make 6 figures. I cannot just walk away. I am not asking you to. But you did. You walked away. I set boundaries. That is different. She looked up at me. Is it? Yeah. I am not cutting them out of my life completely. I am just refusing to let them control me financially. If they can accept that, we can still have a relationship. It is up to them. And if they cannot, then that is their choice, not mine. She nodded slowly, processing that. I do not think they are going to accept it. Oh, not really. They are too proud, too used to being in control. That is not my problem anymore. She smiled, but it was sad, tired. You sound different, stronger. I feel different. We talked for another hour. She told me about her job at the retail store, about the manager who kept cutting her hours, about how she was thinking of going back to school but did not know how she would afford it. I told her about my work, about the projects I was excited about the redesign I had been working on for the nonprofit. We did not talk about our parents again. When we left, she hugged me tight. I am glad you did this, even if it is hard, even if they hate you for it right now. I think you needed to. Thanks. And Linden? If I ever get to the point where I can do the same thing, will you help me? I looked at her, really looked at her. She was 25, still figuring things out, still trapped in a lot of the same patterns I had been trapped in for years. Yeah, I said. I will, whatever you need. She smiled, and this time it reached her eyes. Okay, good. As I drove home, I realized something. The silence from my parents was not the calm before a storm. It was just silence. And I was okay with that. 2 weeks later, I got a call from Nolan. "Just checking in," he said. "Any contact from your parents?" "Nothing direct. Naomi said they are upset, but they have not reached out to me." "Good. That means the letter worked. They understand there are consequences now." "Do you think it will last?" "Hard to say. Some people back off permanently. Some wait a few months and then try again. If they do reach out, do not engage unless you are ready, and if they threaten you in any way, document it and call me immediately." "I will." "How are you doing? Emotionally?" I thought about it. Better than I expected. I thought I would feel guilty, but mostly I just feel relieved. That is normal. You have been carrying a weight for years. Now it is gone. After I hung up, I sat at my desk and looked around my apartment. It still was not much. Still small, still modest. But it felt different now. Lighter. I opened my laptop and checked my savings account. For the first time in 5 years, I had not sent a single dollar to my parents. The balance was higher than it had ever been. I started a new folder, labeled it Future. Inside, I created a simple spreadsheet. Retirement savings, emergency fund, down payment for a better apartment, maybe even a house someday. For the first time, I was planning for my own future, not theirs. At work the next week, Graham pulled me aside after a meeting. "You seem different lately." "Different how?" "Lighter, more focused." I smiled. I dealt with that family situation. "Good. Whatever you did, it worked." That afternoon, Tessa and I grabbed lunch at the cafe. She asked about my parents, and I gave her the short version. She listened, then just said, "You did the right thing." It does not always feel like it. That is because you are a good person. Good people feel guilty even when they should not. So when does that stop? Probably never, but it gets easier. I hoped she was right. That night, I got a text from an unknown number. "This is your father. We need money for rent. Do not ignore this." I stared at it for a long time. My hands wanted to shake. My stomach wanted to twist. But I took a breath, screenshotted the message, and forwarded it to Nolan. Then I blocked the number. 5 minutes later, Nolan called. "Good job. That message is clear harassment. If he reaches out again through a different number, do the same thing. Block and forward." "What if they show up at my apartment?" "Then you do not open the door. If they refuse to leave, you call the police. You have every right to enforce these boundaries." That weekend, I did not go anywhere. I stayed in my apartment, worked on a personal design project, cooked actual meals instead of eating takeout. I watched movies. I read a book I had been meaning to read for months. I existed without waiting for the other shoe to drop. On Sunday evening, Naomi called. "They tried to call you from Dad's work phone." "I know. I blocked it." "They are really angry now." "That is not my problem." "Linden, I am worried they might do something stupid." "Like what?" "I do not know. Show up at your work. Make a scene. If they do, I will handle it." "How?" "I will call security, and then I will call Nolan." She was quiet. "You really are done with them, are not you?" "I am done letting them control me. That is different than being done with them entirely." "It does not feel different." "Maybe not right now, but it is." 3 weeks after the restaurant, my mother left a voicemail. I listened to it once. "Linden, this is your mother. I know you are angry, but we need to talk. Your father lost his job. We are behind on bills. I am not asking for half your paycheck. I am just asking for help. Please." Her voice cracked at the end. I sat there, phone in my hand, and waited for the guilt to hit. It did not. Instead, I felt something else. Clarity. I called Nolan, played him the voicemail. "What do you want to do?" he asked. "Nothing." "Are you sure?" "Yes." "Then delete it and move on. You do not owe them a response." I deleted the voicemail. That night, I looked at my savings account again. The number kept growing. Not fast, but steady. I opened the Future folder on my laptop. Added a new line item, Therapy Fund. Because I was starting to realize I needed help processing all of this. Not because I had done something wrong, but because I had carried this weight for so long that I needed help learning how to live without it. The next morning, I made an appointment with a therapist. The first available slot was 3 weeks out. I took it. For the first time in my adult life, I was living for myself